You know, most of us look at a globe and just see the oceans as these vast, limitless blue spaces, infinite stretches of water that just happen to separate our continents. But in the incredibly brutal, high-stakes world of geopolitics and naval strategy, oceans are absolutely not empty. Actually, scratch that. They are highly complex environments, filled with invisible walls, narrow corridors, and critical choke points. In today's Explainer, we're going to dive right into the freezing, stormy waters of the North Atlantic to examine the invisible architecture of global security. We're looking at a place that has historically dictated the survival of empires and is right now, at this very moment, quietly becoming the most dangerous stretch of water on the entire planet.
It's so easy to fall for that illusion of an empty ocean. But military planners, they don't see open water. They look at the ocean and see vulnerability. They see a critical threshold where the freezing Arctic waters of the Norwegian Sea violently crash into the warm, open expanse of the Atlantic. To truly grasp modern global security, we really have to look past the waves. We need to understand the geographic bottlenecks that literally force massive naval powers into these highly predictable, heavily contested funnels.
And there is one highly specific, completely desolate stretch of the North Atlantic that acts as the ultimate gatekeeper for any hostile nation trying to control the Atlantic, dominate global trade routes, or project a direct threat to the eastern seaboard of the United States. There's just no way around it. They have to navigate this precise, treacherous route. Geography simply dictates that this specific stretch of water is the master key to the Atlantic.
So what is it? Well, this choke point is known by a four-letter acronym, the GIUK Gap. That's GIUK. It stands for a strategic naval choke point formed by the land masses of Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. If you just draw a line connecting these three land masses, you create a physical, unmoving wall. It forms this massive, natural geographical blockade. Any nation looking to break out of the northern icy waters and get into the open ocean, they have to pass through this exact gap. It's an absolute geographical imperative.
Now, to really understand the terrifying reality of the GIUK Gap today, we kind of need to step back into the shadow of the Cold War for a second. During this incredibly tense era, the Soviet Union possessed a massive, highly lethal fleet of nuclear submarines. And their ultimate endgame in the event of World War III was to break out right through this very gap into the open Atlantic Ocean. If they slipped through unnoticed, they could hunt down American supply ships, completely cut off Europe from vital reinforcements, and position their ballistic missiles within immediate, catastrophic striking distance of Washington, D.C. and New York.
The threat level in this region has seen some wild fluctuations over the decades. Back in the 1950s, peak Cold War, submarine patrols in the GIUK Gap were at an absolute all-time high. It was arguably the most heavily monitored stretch of water in human history. But then, a massive shift happened. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. The once mighty Russian fleet was mostly just left to rust in port. The massive threat seemingly vanished overnight, which led the United States and NATO to heavily relax their grip on the region. The whole world basically thought the war for the Atlantic was a closed chapter. But as the 2020s are showing us in real time, that assumption was a grave miscalculation. What's deeply unsettling today is the stark contrast between that analog past and our highly vulnerable digital present. See, back in the Cold War, the US Navy quickly realized they couldn't physically block an entire ocean. So they did something totally unprecedented. They weaponized the seabed itself. They laid down thousands of miles of underwater hydrophone cables straight across the GIUK Gap in a highly classified project known as SOS, the Sound Surveillance System. It was this invisible analog tripwire designed purely to listen for the acoustic signatures of Soviet propellers. Today, however, that analog monitoring system has been replaced by a new reality on the ocean floor, one that exposes an entirely different, deeply terrifying vulnerability.
All right, fast forward to today. The ice in the Arctic is actively melting, and the strategic chessboard is going through a violent reset. Over the last 2 decades, Russia has quietly, methodically rebuilt its submarine fleet. We're not talking about those noisy, clunky metal tubes from the Soviet era anymore. They've awakened the Yasin M-class submarines. These vessels are absolute masterclasses in stealth engineering. They are incredibly quiet, heavily armed, and exceptionally lethal. And guess what? Once again, they are sliding right into those icy waters to test the defenses of the GIUK Gap.
Because of this, NATO commanders are now reporting the highest level of Russian submarine activity in the North Atlantic since the peak of the Cold War. But this raises an urgent, really critical question. The Cold War is over, right? The global dynamic has totally shifted. So what exactly is the new target out there? Well, the modern target isn't a fleet of warships. It's actually bolted to the ocean floor. The entire nature of the threat has evolved. These advanced, highly specialized Russian research submarines aren't just out hunting military ships. They've been spotted loitering precisely where the literal backbone of our global economy lies. You see, resting right beneath the waves of the GIUK Gap is the nervous system of the modern world, a highly dense web of transatlantic fiber optic cables.
95%. Just wrap your head around that number for a second. Over 95% of all global internet traffic, crucial financial transactions, and highly sensitive military communications travel straight through these fragile undersea cables. To put that into perspective, trillions of dollars cross that Atlantic seabed every single day, and the Russian military apparatus knows exactly where these vital lifelines are located. Which brings us to a truly catastrophic cyber warfare scenario. If a major conflict were to erupt today, the opening move wouldn't just be about sinking enemy destroyers. It would be about severing these specific cables, right in the GIUK Gap. Doing so would immediately blind the United States military, trigger a catastrophic crash of the European banking system, and plunge entire nations into total digital darkness within seconds. The GIUK Gap has transformed from a traditional naval choke point into the ultimate modern-day kill switch.
And sitting dead center in the middle of this geopolitical storm is Iceland. It's an island nation with a population of less than 400,000 people, mostly famous for its glaciers, hot springs, and importantly, a nation with absolutely no standing army of its own. Yet, in the brutal calculus of modern geopolitics, Iceland is arguably the most strategically important piece of land in the entire northern hemisphere. Military strategists don't just see a peaceful island out there, they see NATO's unsinkable aircraft carrier. Because Iceland sits precisely in the middle of the GIUK Gap. Whoever controls it commands the airspace and the waters of the entire North Atlantic. Recognizing this severe, renewed threat, the United States military has quietly but firmly returned to the island. The Keflavik Air Base, which was a bustling, vital hub during the Cold War before being largely drawn down, has been officially reactivated. The runway lights are back on, and the hangars are full once again. Operating out of Keflavik today are advanced P-8 Poseidon aircraft. These are widely recognized as the world's premier submarine hunters. Every single day, they take off from Iceland's icy runways and drop specialized sonobuoys into the freezing waters below. They are desperately trying to track this new generation of ultra-quiet stealth submarines slipping through the gap. It's an incredibly tense, multi-billion-dollar game of hide-and-seek playing out right now, and it goes completely unnoticed by the general public. But here's the thing. Russia isn't just treating this as an offensive pathway anymore. As global temperatures rise and the Arctic ice recedes, they are executing what military analysts call the ice bastion strategy. They are aggressively fortifying their northern coastlines. They're deploying advanced Arctic missile systems and massive heavy radar arrays. What this means is that Russia now views the GIUK Gap as a dual-purpose asset. It is their primary defensive wall. If NATO forces want to project any kind of power northward into the melting Arctic, they have to penetrate the GIUK Gap from the south. It has literally become both a strategic sword and an impenetrable shield. And just to further complicate this incredibly fragile security environment, a massive new wild card has entered the region: China. Despite being thousands of miles away, China has actually declared itself a near-Arctic state. Backed by a declared no-limits partnership with Russia, China is aggressively building nuclear icebreakers. Their goal is crystal clear: to assert dominance over the newly opening shipping lanes in the melting north. Together, these two powers are actively turning the waters above the GIUK Gap into the most intensely contested geopolitical arena of the 21st century. So, this brings us to a fundamental, inescapable truth about our world. The technology definitely changes, right? We go from analog hydrophones to digital fiber optics, from noisy diesel engines to silent nuclear stealth submarines. But the geography of our planet, that does not change. The GIUK Gap remains the absolute master key to the Atlantic. It proves that oceans do not simply separate nations, they forcefully connect them through unavoidable choke points. And historically, just as it is today, the power that controls those choke points controls the entire global balance of power. Which leaves us with a deeply unsettling reality to consider. Our entire modern way of life, our economies, our communications, our security, is physically tethered to the ocean floor, running straight through the crosshairs of an active, heavily armed geopolitical flashpoint. So the next time you think of the oceans as just vast, empty water, ask yourself, Are these underwater internet cables the greatest, most overlooked vulnerability of our modern world?